Welcome back to Big Board. It's Saturday morning. I'd hoped to get this all set up and ready to go last night, but quick update. Had some rules questions, jumped online, realized that Decision Games and Eric Harvey, I don't even know if Eric Harvey is still alive or not, are not answering questions on Board Game Geek. So there were several questions that were out on the infamous web that had not been answered or responded to by anybody other than the one fan. And I guess it's just typical for a magazine game, though, right? These guys punch out a couple of magazines and sell a couple hundred copies, or maybe they sell 500 copies, I don't know. And most of the time, I'm sure the magazine is read and then it's popped back in its little Ziploc bag and it goes up on the shelf and no one plays. But here we are trying to play, so we got to work out what to do, and we're gonna go by the seat of our pants and do what we think makes most sense based on the information we have, and kind of go forward from there. So we've got Combat Veteran that we're looking at the moment. I'm gonna adjust the camera a little bit. Don't panic, Kevin. All right, we've got our base in the valley with mountains all around. Bad guys about to be all around, big machine guns up on hills mountains that will chew guys to pieces, and all the Americans are going to be inside the wire here, except for these three. It's a pretty straightforward game. I mentioned I gave a quick overview, light overview of the rules in that live stream I did yesterday. But just to recap and just to tell you what the victory conditions are, let's run through that, and then we'll talk about maybe what both sides' strategies might be a little bit, and we'll have a look at the counters that I've got set off to the side here that are all punched and clipped now. In fact, actually, let's do that first. So let's have a look at the counters. These blue numbers on the right represent their morale or elan, and it gives if you roll less than the 6, you will, on a d6, you will be able to recover from being from taking cover or crawling, right? It's a condition. You do these discipline checks, right? So there are a set of combat results here. Only one is a miss. Everything else is going to force you to do something that you don't want to, whether it's taking cover, having to roll for a discipline check, or you're pinned down by putting a crawl marker on your guy, or you're lightly wounded, in which case for the Americans a medic can assist you, or you may be severely wounded. And if you are already lightly wounded and receive another severe wound, then you're killed in action. So it's pretty deadly and pretty effective. The left hand number is the number of dice you're going to throw. So it's a bucket of dice motif, where I'm going to get to roll 6 dice modified by armor, terrain, things of that nature, how the movement that you're currently conducting and things like that. The Americans get a slight benefit here, and this is where one of the rules issues came up. These white dots here represent some leadership capability from 1 dot through to 5 dots. And we get to apply, we believe we get to apply that as some sort of modifier, right? It's not perfectly clear. What it says in the rules is that you can use the leader's discipline value to recover. However, if I've got a discipline value of 6 for my chap, why would I use a leader with a discipline of 5 unless I'm getting some benefit from having these dots here? So we're going to assume that those dots are a DRM. Obviously, for the Americans, rolling a 5 or less on a D6 is going to be pretty easy for them, although they do have quite a few guys here that have 6s, so they'll be in good shape as well. So there's that. Now the Taliban also, their forces are split evenly 4 rated, 5 rated, and 6 rated. So there's 15 6 rated, meaning that they will always recover. We don't even need to roll unless there's modifiers to the die roll. And then the 5s, so they've got a great chance, right? 66% chance, and these guys have less. So that's actually not 66%. It's going to be more than that, but nevertheless, you get my point. So special weapons or crew squad attachments and things like that. These are 3 dudes. These are obviously individuals over here. And these are just going to give you incremental dice that we're going to roll, right? Okay, so let's have a look at the map. Now, and I must say, I like the counters. They're a little thin, but I like them. And I quite like the map art. It's pretty evocative of the terrain, etc. So KEATING is in the valley. There's a river that bifurcates the map and splits the map up. Plunging fire all around from the mountaintops. These units start on mountaintops. They're big machine guns, DSHKs. I forget what they actually stand for. That's a long Russian name, right? And I also forget the caliber, so my bad. Whether they're not 50 cals, but they're close, right? So up on the mountaintops, lots of plunging fire. I've got some questions around line of sight, whether I can trace through this mountain vegetation. It's not mountain woods, mountain vegetation, so that may mean something to us. We don't know. We're going to check in on that. Taliban are going to come in from the edges of the board, wherever they decide to, and their goal is to kill everybody here or wound them, and they win. The Americans win by getting 5 guys off the map, and that will be a victory for them, which would mean then that not everyone dies, obviously enough. Otherwise, it's a draw. So there are some considerations for the Taliban to work out how they can block the Americans from making a quick exit and securing a victory, which would be locking down these zones here, either with fields of fire or physically with units, so that they're forced into close combat. So there's that, and then let's see. So for the Americans, they've got to hunker down and survive. There's some, I mentioned on the live stream the other day, there's some neat little rules around modes of movement, whether you're walking, running, or sprinting. It's going to give you bonuses on your defense. That's a thing. And, stacking, these are 40-meter hexes, so you can have up to 15 guys in a hex, right? Which is a lot. 15 game pieces in a hex, I should say. So that's fairly significant. Now, there is air support and various... I've got the bits up here, right? There's only one turn track on the map, and it's over on the Vietnam side of the map. So we're just using this here, turn 1 through 10. There's a random assortment of support, artillery, air, A-10s, and all that sort of fun stuff will be allocated to the Americans, but it's random. And then there are also these 120 millimeter mortars that do 120 millimeter mortars. Yeah, they may be mortars. I think it's the mortar pit is what that fire is coming from. I get to choose when I use those though. So we're going to have those. I think it's a one-shot deal. So there's a lot of support. Now, the interesting thing though is for the Americans is they don't need a line of sight to allocate that support, which is interesting because there are drones overhead. Now, I don't recall reading about that in the book at all, but maybe that was in the more detailed after-action report, and that wasn't part of the book because maybe it made it seem too easy for the Yanks. I don't know. Anyway, that is what it is. So that's kind of the situation. We're going to get set up. We're going to bumble our way through the rules as we find other little exceptions and issues with them. I found an online copy of the rules. They appear to be almost identical to the printed version I have here. I like what I'm seeing so far. There's just some things that need clarifying, and it seems like it's bringing a pretty crisp approach to the game. Let's see how the combat works out. That's going to be the key. All right, roll some dice. Have a fun Saturday.